Good afternoon.
How come I'm louder than all of you? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, how many of you are actually Archie fans? Wow, let's see. All right, I don't know what you expected from this. I will definitely talk a lot, because that's what I do. And Jeff Schulz will be joining me, please, Jeff. He'll be joining me shortly. He's got a lot of stuff going on at his table. But in order for you to understand how I create Archie stories and some of the characters and things, I think it's necessary for you to understand a little bit about how artists work.
Who are you?
Excuse me? I have no idea.
No, introduce yourself.
You didn't. I haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay.
Brother's over here directing me now. You know?
No.
Man's got a camera? Yeah, okay. So, like I said, I want you to understand a little bit how the artist works. So, first off, my name is Simmons. I am a freelance writer. But before that, I was born, which was a good place to start. And I was raised in New York City, and I grew up reading comic books. I read Batman, Superman, Green Arrow, Flash, Archie, Little Lulu, Richie Rich, you name it, I had it in my hands at some point. And you know, one of the things that an artist does is an artist, and I consider artists to be writers and illustrators, all right? So I just want you to understand, I'm using that broad stroke there. One of the things that an artist does is he or she reflects life. They reflect what they've experienced, what they imagine, what they sort of aspire to. And so I was growing up, my mother is a single parent, and was that sort of quote-unquote impoverished lifestyle scenario. So comics were a big escape for me. You know, it was a getaway. You know, there was this whole other world outside of where I was actually living, and there were all these other characters aside from the people I knew in my life. And when you see the world that way, when comics or movies are your escape, you know, then those characters take on a part of your life. They become a little bit more important than that casual thing you sort of looked at, you know, because you were on a train ride from New York City to Boston. So, you know, the little Archies, you know, those little adventures that you would, well, I wanted to have a pup, and I wanted to live in a small town and go off, be able to play with my friends and discover secrets and chase down crooks and things like that. And of course, it's a little more dangerous in real life to do that stuff, especially when you're 10 years old. So I lived vicariously through those adventures. Archie, Betty, Veronica, Jughead, all of these characters became very familiar to me, and I had a sense of reality. They weren't my real friends, but they were friends. It was a friendly place to go. And of course, the era I'm talking about is pre-dark, extreme. You know, Batman didn't need therapy then, okay? You know, he did need some serious medication. He was not there. You know, so it was a world where we could read almost any of the books that were out there. There really wasn't that much of a ban on things. So yeah, you grow up and you reach a certain age where maybe it's not that cool to be reading comics. You know, you sort of step away from it for a while. But I grew up wanting to be a writer and an actor, and I pursued acting for a number of years. I worked in films as an extra, I did voiceover work, I did a lot of theater, I traveled the country, I got to see some of these small towns that look like Riverdale. I got to meet some people who grew up in these small towns who were not as wonderful as some of the Riverdalians. But I started writing a lot more, and I wrote plays, I've written children's books, I've written a number of other things which I skip over now just to keep it focused on Archie. I had enough experiences, things that when the time in my life came back to, I want to write comics, writing an Archie was in the back of my mind. You know, it was something I kind of liked to do. And prior to getting to that, I had the opportunity to create my own comic book characters. I had an opportunity to write a Sherlock Holmes play that was published and produced. So now you're writing iconic characters that you grew up with, but it's still not quite Riverdale yet, right? And at a certain point, after having created a series I created called Blackjack, which is an African-American soldier fortune in the 1930s, that got me a lot of interest and attention in the comic book world. And then I contacted, and this is 2006, I contacted Archie Comics. And I said, you know, I would like to come in and see if maybe I can get some freelance work with you. Now, I just have to tell you right now that whenever I do conventions, and a lot of people sort of come by the table and they see the Archie Comics on the table. A lot of them tend to think, oh, he's selling these books, so he's a retailer. And then I have a little sign on my table. If you come by, you'll see it. There's a picture of me with the covers of a lot of the books and things that I've done, but I guess people don't really see that. And so I will say, I'm the writer of this. And they'll go, you write Archie? So, yeah. Oh, well, that's great, you know. Yeah, I do write Archie. I understand, it's middle America. All right, so I understand. So I went into the Archie, I say that because I went into the Archie office in 2006. And I like standing. I went into the Archie office in 2006, and I'm sitting at the desk at this conference table with several of the owners and the now president of the company, Mike Pellerito, and a couple of the editors. And they're saying to me, you know, we decided we all wanted to meet you, and I'm thinking, I'm just coming in for a writing job. You know, now I'm in front of the council of elders here. You know? What is this about? You know? And so one of the owners said to me, you know, we really just want to ask you, why do people think Archie is white bread? And I thought, okay, there's a trick question here. Yeah. I said, well, okay, let's just take it from the standpoint of who are your lead characters? Okay, and you rattle off the 5 of them. They're right there on the wall, you know. So, okay, so we already get, you know, Caucasian. That's fine, okay. Then who are your supporting characters? And they read, but we have Raj, who's East Indian, and we have this. And I said, yeah, you have one of this and one of that. And it's like a sushi bar, you know. I said, but the reality is when you look at your issues, and these guys are very open to this conversation. I don't want you to feel like this was like, you know, they're very open. I said, when you look at your drawings, look at your backgrounds, look at your random illustrations of your characters. Do you see diversity? Oh, I said, if you just have your artists even just seeing the world that way and peppering it, it looks less like you're creating this homogenized scenario. Because obviously they really weren't about not being inclusive. But they didn't understand that just by the way the things were being presented, just by the way they were being drawn, just out of habit, it created that illusion. So that was the first moment I felt I had anything to do with affecting the visuals and characterizations in Archie Comics. From that point on, it was really like, what do you want to write, what do you want to do? So the first thing I did was Archie's World Tour, which was really a lot of fun for me. It was a 4-issue miniseries. And naturally, I'm a new guy on the team, so what do I want to do? I want to tear the people right out of Riverdale. I want to get them off familiar ground. So I take Archie and his group on a jaunt, 5 countries in 10 days. They land in England, and they hop to Paris and Madrid and Nairobi and Switzerland. And I throw in an adventure story with spies and things in there. But at the same time, just so again, I paint the picture of who I am as an artist. Yes, there's diversity. There's a new teacher who's black. There's someone else who's Asian. That's cool. But also, let's look at the characters that they already have. Moose. I was tired of Moose just being considered this big, dumb jock. It's an old joke. It's an extremely old, tired joke. And if I have to bring something fresh to the table to make it a little bit more interesting for me, what is Moose really dealing with? What could I take from now and connect it to that look that he has? And so what I did with the story was, Moose keeps going through the story with this Walkman and these headphones, and he seems distracted. He's not really paying attention to Midge the way she wants and all that. And by the end of the first storyline, you find out that Moose is, actually the Walkman has a recording device. And he's been trying to record what the guides are saying about the different historic places and things, because they've all got to turn in papers on this trip. And Moose knows he has trouble writing. He has trouble writing, he has trouble reading. It's not that he's stupid, it's that he's challenged. And here is Moose now saying, look, I'm just trying to do better. So for me, that was a way of affecting that storyline and to give him just another level. You can still play the joke on, you know, in terms of silly things that were going around him, but it was a way of connecting also to all the kids that I work with who are reading challenged, so who have that, and instead of feeling like I can't do anything, maybe there's a little technique you can use. Here's something. And then Midge and the other guys go, we didn't realize, man, we'll help you, we'll back you up. So it was about bringing them together, yes?
I think that's probably sort of the educational element into the story that you just put in. Like Moose, back in the day, he was a dumb jock. Obviously, they just labeled him. Now, all of a sudden, now you're bringing in, like now he's special, like in this case, perceptually impaired, or he's, other,
Well, whatever the challenge might be, you're right, you're right. By the way, here's Jeff. Everybody say hello, Jeff. But you're right. It's actually, and again, I was just sort of helping them understand. I like to stand, but if you want to sit, that's okay too.
No, I don't want to.
Okay, okay, we can move fast that way, right? But I was just saying, when you affect the character, as an artist, when you come to the table, when you step in, no matter how much has gone before, when you step in, what do you bring to the table? Either as an illustrator or as a writer, what can you add that makes it still a part of that rich picture, but also is a little bit about who you are and how you like to handle things. So I was just telling him about the first Archie job that I did, and how I, aside from adding a little more diversity to the story, I also affected one of the well-known characters, which was Moose. And instead of portraying him as quote unquote just a big dumb jock, that also there was a reading impairment or a challenge that he was dealing with. So that was one of the things that I was able to do with that story. Now, Jeff, how long have you been drawing for the Archie?
I started in '95. They put me on the digest books in '95, and from there I went on to the Veronica book. That it doesn't exist anymore.
He lamented. Yes.
And then to the Betty and Veronica book when after Dan DeCarlo wasn't doing that, and now I don't think it exists anymore.
What are you trying to say, Jeff?
So right now, things have changed a lot there. They're starting over with, I guess, Archie 1 or Betty and Veronica 1. All the books. I guess there's a Jughead too, and they're starting at number 1.
Well, I guess one of the things to say is, everything requires a certain degree of change. Change does happen, but Archie's been going on since 1939, and it's never been out of print, which is kind of scary when you think about it. And literally, if you look back at the first Archie stories, the very first ones, actually Veronica didn't even live in Riverdale.
Yeah.
She moved there. Now you look at the Archie stories, they're saying she grew up there, but their realities have splintered and changed. But there was the way these books were dealt with in the 30s and 40s versus the 50s, 60s versus 90s. So yeah, there's a new look that's coming. I don't know if they're completely, since I see Archie as having, there's Archie Classics, the stuff that we're more familiar with. Then there's Life with, oh, thank you. So we just brought up a few things. There's Archie Classics. So these are more like the Archie Classics. This is the familiar gang, right? The folks that you would all know and well. And then there's Life with Archie, which was the oversized sort of magazine format, and it was the gang's grown up. They've gone through college. They've gotten married. They have children, and they're having that teen angst. No, not teens. They're having that adult drama now, marriage and jobs and children and corporate intrigue and all of that. And that ran for about 2 years, right? Yeah, 2 years. And then that ended. I won't say how, because some of you may actually go out and buy the books. And then there's Afterlife with Archie, which is the third universe. And that's basically The Walking Dead meets Archie Comics. And if any of you are into horror and gore and well-written horror and gore, but horror and gore, then it's not, oh, golly gee, someone ate something and they kind of look like a zombie. No, people are dying and getting chewed up, and it's pretty intense. And that's a whole nother audience base. And
have you guys read that? Anybody?
No, this gentleman has here. Yeah. He's licking his lips. I'm worried. So it's, what Archie has done, no matter how you feel about it, what Archie has done is is she into it?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I don't know her.
Yeah. What Archie has done is it's done the same thing that Marvel and DC has done. It's created different universes. You've got the Batman universe, you've got alternate universes and like crazy. So Archie's done the same thing. But now I feel like you were saying, they are now rebooting some of the images to again attempt to appeal to a newer audience. Now I'm told, and we'll know how this will go. I'm told that the classics are not going away, but they're going to be titles that have the new look, and that's going to appeal to another generation.
I haven't heard.
Oh, see, you didn't get the memo.
No.
No. Okay. I'll share it with you later.
Okay.
Okay. But in terms of our influence on it, and again I can speak as a writer. My influence in terms of the Archies were again the story that I just told you about World Tour, but also then moving through the stories. Like for instance, Chuck Clayton. Now, Chuck Clayton is I'll play to the camera. Chuck Clayton was created in the 70s. At the time, I like to say, not to offend anybody, but I like to say like every series had one. Yeah, so we had Chuck, and Chuck is Coach Clayton's son. So I don't know which came first because I didn't follow the series that way, but Riverdale High had a black coach. This is his kid. So if the kid came first, the coach came first, I don't know. But so you had Clayton and Kid. And because of the formats of Archies, the digest books as well as the 22-pagers, you get an 8-page story, 4-page story, 2-page stories, right? A lot of sort of a potpourri of possibilities, right?
Yeah, most of the ones I did were five or 6 pages.
You're right. So unless an editor or an artist or writer is specifically thinking about Chuck, you're running with the regular gang. And a lot of the time, Chuck didn't show up in the stories. So people were saying, oh, but when did you created this character? I was like, no, I didn't. But when I came to start working for Archie, again, 06, 07, they said, look, we know that you teach comics to kids. You've been doing this for years. And I said, yeah, that's true, and I stand proud of that. So could you come up with a story where Chuck tries to do the same thing? Because he's the go-to guy in Riverdale for comics. Everybody knows he wants to grow up to be a comic book illustrator. He's a great illustrator. So they said, could you come up with this?
Riverdale High with Chuck Clayton drawing everybody as animals.
Exactly. Oh, see, there you go. I love fans.
Yeah, I know.
Fans are great, right? Okay. Yeah, just keep backing us up.
So get up here.
So the thing of it is that, yeah, I said I could come up with a story, but since I've been doing this teaching thing for years, I could come up with a bunch of them. So they let me do 4 stories in which Chuck does that, working with kids, working with a teacher, trying to show them how to create comics, at the same time realizing, yeah, I may know all this, but it's really hard to teach anybody anything. So it's my personal experiences seen through this character. So this was fun for me to do, and at the same time it was interesting because once the book came out, it was interesting the audiences it pulled towards it. Yes, there was kids who were not used to a black character, but then there were teachers who were, oh, this is great, I can use this in such and such a book, and I can use this in my class, and that sort of thing. But in terms of the general market, they said, well, let's make sure they can see Archie so that they'll know it's an Archie book. Because a lot of people had no idea who this character was. Yes?
Well, actually, Josie and the Pussycats were actually a parallel universe to the Archies, even back in the 60s, going to the 70s. And then they did introduce a black character.
Valerie.
Yeah, Valerie, yeah.
Yeah, with Josie and Melody. So I thought that was actually.
But it's the same time period. It's the same. It's the 60s, 70s. It's the same time period.
I thought maybe it was introduced later or something like that.
No, according to Victor Gorlick, who's one of the oldest living editors in comic books right now, because I think he's been with the company 55 years.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Something like that. Yeah, it's remarkable.
Yeah.
So he was Goldwater's assistant, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm told.
Yeah.
That's what I'm told.
Yeah, he started out in like the bullpen.
Yeah.
You know, he was a teenager, I think.
Victor, here's how amazing Victor is to me. About 8 years ago, I decided to do why am I losing my vocabulary here? I was going to curate, there we go, thank you. I was going to curate an Archie exhibit at a museum in New York City called the Museum of Comic and Cartoon Art. And so I got to spend almost a year going through the Archie archives, finding old artwork and stuff like that. I was really having a great time. It was dirty, but it was great. I could find an 11 by 17 board of comic art from 30 years ago with glue stains and everything, and I'd walk into Victor's office and go, Victor, what is this from? Bam. Knew who did it, when they did it, why they did it, what happened to that artist since, so forth and so on, all in his head. And I keep begging people to record this man before it's too late, okay? Because all of those experiences, I can stand here and I can talk about from 2006 to now. He can stand here and talk about his experiences. Victor can go back as a historian and talk about what he lived and what happened and in context. that's a blessing we shouldn't lose. But
one time, I was working on, when I was doing the Veronica book, I had cut my finger, and I had the Band-Aid on and stuff, but I was drawing and I got blood on the page, and then I took it in, and Victor told me the story about Harry Lucy, you know, who's like well-known, you know, Archie artist, and he said Harry came into the office one day, and I guess they're in Mamaroneck now. They were in Manhattan. He got hit by a car. He's going into the office. He gets hit by a car. He gets up, goes into the office, he's bleeding, you know.
But delivering those pages.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you have to understand too that you know the freelance lifestyle is rugged.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for cars and everything.
Well, yeah, or paper cuts. You know, it's a vicious thing. But you know, the other thing too is in those days, the artwork, quote unquote, had no value beyond the press.
Yeah.
Right, you hand in those pages, you get paid, that's it, the check, that's it. And then a lot of those guys never went back for the boards. The boards got thrown out and so forth. So, I mean, the fact that Archie even has archives of this material is because they never threw it out. But it's not they were thinking one day we can send our kids to college off of this stuff. So there's a board with your blood on it. That's probably going to really go somewhere on eBay for a lot of money, you know. If we can get that board, you know. But, you know, again, so have you, you know, because I don't want to completely, have you created any original characters for the Archie stories?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No, okay.
Well, thank you. That was okay. Let's try. What was the most difficult character you've had to deal with in your career with them? Illustrating the story?
Well, you know, the one character I don't like to draw, I think, is Mrs. Lodge, Veronica's mom. I just like, why do I have to draw her? Like, she's in the story. I don't want to draw her. For some reason, I just don't want to do it. I don't know why.
And so she's never appealed to you?
No.
Never appealed to you. Okay, all right.
No.
All right. What's your favorite character?
I guess Veronica, because...
you don't like her mother, but you like the kid. Okay.
Yeah, well, I like when she's actually, like, having a fit, you know.
You like to draw her all pissed off? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think we got some therapy going here.
You know, yeah, that's what I like the best.
I would have to say, you know, and again, in dealing with, again, going through the process, you grow up reading these characters and think about how many different people have written and drawn these stories. There are editors who've tried to keep certain through lines, certain specific characteristics so that they don't change dramatically over time. But, you know, here you are, you have to have a certain sort of knowledge of the lead characters, their personalities and so forth. And then you have to come up with quote-unquote original stories. Now, again, 1939. How many original stories are there? You know? So, I mean, part of it is you tweaking their personalities. You know, I did an Obama story with the Archie gang. Anybody read that? No one read that. Oh, thank you. I knew we sold that copy somewhere. Yeah, yeah, it was a 2-issue miniseries because Archie said to me, can you, and I know you should never ask me, can I, because I will 9 times out of 10 say yes. Can you come up with a story where Obama and Palin are in the story?
Oh, I did read that.
Yeah, yeah, and I said, yeah, I could. But could we print it? So Victor said, no, we got to be able to print it. I said, yeah, all right, so there's a real challenge. But what I did was, you know, in looking at that, again, just to explain the process, okay, I've got the regular gang, and then I've got Obama, or what I know about him, and I've got Sarah Palin and what we know about her, and putting my personal feelings aside about either of these people, I have to create a story that's going to make some sense and have fun, you know, because that's what the readership was looking forward to. So, you know, in looking at it, I'm thinking, how can I do this? What would happen organically within this group of characters that would bring the President of the United States and this campaign adversary? And what I did was I came up with a story where Archie and Reggie are running for class president. And Veronica is Archie's campaign manager, naturally, because she knows how everything's supposed to work, right? She's got it all together. And there's another character whose name escapes my mind right now. She's a female. It's a female character who is studying psychology and psychotherapy and everything. And so she's very into how people's head games and things like that. She's Reggie's manager. And this campaign. Now, Archie is a goof. Archie's constantly making mistakes. Okay, so Archie is Jimmy Stewart. You know, Jimmy Stewart's running for president of Riverdale, and he's golly gee, and I want to do the right thing, and this is what I'm thinking. This is how I'm processing it. And Reggie is the slick politician, because Reggie's just cool, and he likes to play jokes on people, and he's got this therapist there, you know, who's basically telling him the right things to say. So at some point, Veronica realizes that, well, you know, the kids don't really, Archie's always making mistakes, and he can't make up his mind. What do you mean he can't make up his mind? Well, he can't choose between you and Veronica and Betty, right? He can't make up his mind. And we don't know if we want him as a leader. So she goes, oh, you have no faith in him. I got to make him look good to you. So there's been a story where Veronica goes to some inaugural thing or some event, and Obama's there. So she's already met him once. So I said, okay. So she arranges to get Archie all dressed up and to this event that her father's tied into where there's Obama, and she gets a photo bomb secretly of Archie shaking hands with the president. And she throws it up on social media. And immediately, what does it look like?
Obama endorses Archie.
Yep, they're connected, they're good. So, okay, so now Reggie looks bad, so his person comes up with, Sarah's doing some sort of book tour thing in the next town, let's do the same thing. Throws it up on social media. Now it looks like, and in the last shot of the first book, is limos and Secret Service pulling in front of the high school, and Obama and Sarah Palin stepping out of their respective cars going, what the hell is going on? All right, because now it's a big media storm. It's all through. It went from social media onto the press. And the kids now realize we're responsible for this, we're screwed. Yeah. So organically, I have to look at what do I know, what's really happening in the world, how do I connect that, and what are their personalities, and what can I tweak and mess with that will allow me to come up with something, and I hope it was a good story for you. Thank you. You still like me? No? Okay, sorry. All right. But, you know, hopefully it's enjoyable. I have to, because I'm an educator as well. I work with kids. I understand what it is to throw images out there and that they do have an effect, whether you want to recognize that or not. I have to have some sort of resolution at the end. So there's a scene in the second book where Archie and Obama talk about being responsible. You know, basically, when you step up and you say, yeah, I'm in charge, you're now responsible. You're responsible for her actions as well as your own, just like I am, blah, blah, blah. So I did that in the book. You know, it still has a funny ending later on. But that's you know, creating the characters and working with iconic characters, it's a very, very tricky game. It's a fun game if you're into it. But it's tricky because you don't want to destroy what you guys love. You know, and what I grew up enjoying, and what this gentleman's been drawing for like 206 years, was it? Something like that.
It'll be 20 years in November.
I was close. I was close. You know, so you want to maintain that connection, but you also want to try and bring something fresh to it, just so it doesn't be, oh no, I've seen this before. Okay. So now, do you want to add anything? Because I want to get questions from folks, and I already told you how I do that.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add.
Sure you do.
No, I don't.
You don't?
No, just questions. What about girl?
Girl? Yes, she is. Yes.
How do you draw pictures?
And did you bring any to show? You asked for it, Jack. Yeah. Be careful what you ask for.
You know, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. You got another one?
Elaborate on your question.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the most part, how do you start with setting up the page? Do you start with the script and then go from there and lay out pencils, or do you just kind of go with the flow?
Oh, okay. Well, the way they usually do it at Archie is, like they'll take the you know, a piece of copy paper, 8.5 by 11, and they'll draw it out. Like the writer will draw it out, and you know, it could look like stick figures, and you know, they have to wear balloons. And I go by it, but then I don't use that layout. But it's just something to go by. It makes it easier than probably the way you write. You're probably at the typewriter, aren't you?
And we have computers now.
Well, oh, okay. Really?
Yeah. It depends. It depends. Sometimes I'm at the keyboard. Sometimes I'm pad and pencil. I can go very old school very easily. Sometimes it helps for me to not be electronically connected.
I like to see, you know, when they're drawing it out, I like to see, because you can see, you know, what they're getting at, you know, like the emotions of the characters, you know. And then I just go from there. And it makes it easier, and that's the way it's usually done.
Okay, I would just add to that as a writer, because I mean, I think some artists are really capable of taking very simplistic breakdowns, which is what we call them, you know, and really embellish and really give a full sense of what's going on in the scene. Some aren't, in which case as a writer, sometimes you want your script to be more specific if you have certain visuals that need to be in there. So I will sometimes indicate specific visuals because I'm setting up a clue, or I'm setting up a flow of action that leads to a payoff. And if you drop out any of those things, then it's like it's erratic. It's like, you know, static in the eye. So I'm sometimes more literal in my art direction in the action. I mean, the average script, I don't know, again, everybody has their own style, but the average script will say like panel 1, and then it will say action, and you'll indicate what action is going on in the panel, and then you'll have the character's name and maybe what they're saying. So that might be, you know, how a full script would work, and then you go to panel 2 and 3 and so forth. So to some degree, it's like a film script in a way, and again, depending on the artist, like knowing Jeff's work, I would probably be looser in certain descriptions of things going on in the panel, because I know Jeff will come up with it.
Yeah, because if he wasn't, it'd probably drive me crazy. Because some of these writers, really, some of these writers, I think it's like guys who really haven't written very much. I think they want to be
See
like
you outside.
novelists. You know, like they're writing a novel, and it's like, I don't want to read all this. You know, they're like so descriptive, and like, I just get to the basic story, you know.
Yeah,
Really.
and again, you know, technique and style. It's individual. Like Chuck Dixon, who does a lot of work for Batman, okay, or did a lot of work for Batman. I've seen Chuck's scripts, and it's basically just dialogue. There's hardly any description per panel at all, versus some of the other writers I've known who the description is almost a half a page. Wow, okay, there's no freedom there. And as I said, for me, because I also come from theater and film, I know that there are sometimes certain specific actions that I need to see in order to carry off the payoff I'm going for. So I will indicate that. But otherwise, why am I covering up his artwork? You know, it's a visual medium with supplemental wording. It's not a novel that, oh, happens to have a spot illustration.
Yeah.
So you got to be clear about that. Playing, you know, being true to the characters, but also being respectful of your collaborator, whether I ever get to talk to him or not. And you don't always get to talk to the illustrator. You know, sometimes that editor is the only connection either one of us ever have. Another question. Yes, 1847. Yeah, you're welcome.
Do you have any trouble kind of, like if you've overwritten for a script, because the story has to stay within a certain page count, correct? Do you have any difficulty trimming that down? Do you have any methodology to that? Or?
Yes, a match usually works really well.
A shredder.
Yeah, a shredder is even better, faster and doesn't smell.
That's a very good tip.
But you know, this is going to sound crass, and I don't mean it to, but I'm just going to be blunt. Part of being a professional is understanding that you do have those limits, and you may think that you've written the most eloquent piece of work ever. But if it's not fitting the format or the structure or the limitation that you've been given, you got to pare it down. And you've got to be able to go back in. That's what editing is, you know, personal editing, not just an editor, is going back in. If I've written a great speech, my character says something really wonderful, but you know what? It's too much. What is he really saying? Just like you said about, you know, get to it. You know, what is he really saying? Okay, that's what he's really saying. Can I cut 5 words and get to it? Can I cut 3 more? Oh, you know what? He could just say, damn. Hey! Oh, there you go. But you've got to be willing to step back from everything I've written is golden and go, wait a minute, let me get the job done. Let me get down to the essence. And again, we're talking Archie Comics here, but this works across the board. You really need to want to do the best possible job efficiently. You want the quality. You want it to fit within all of the constraints that you're dealing with so that it flows and that, you know, the end result is everybody enjoys themselves. So just write, get it out first, then go back.
Keep the best parts.
Right, and edit back. and then go through it again if you can, if you have the time.
Yeah.
2 passes are great. The first one is just to get the stuff out. I say this with kids too. Don't worry about spelling. Don't worry about don't let the editor write the story. The writer writes the story. Write the story. But now you can be the writer, editor, and go back in, and you pass through it, you know, a couple of times, and really streamline it until, yeah, okay, now it fits. This is what I like. Then you send it off, and you hope that the editor loves it. Or he or she will cut it to shreds, and you're back to square one again. Yes?
I was wondering, Archie Comics has been around for a long time, and the target audience, as far as I understand, is usually around pre-teen era kind of thing. I mean, that was, of course, the notion back in the day. Obviously, you sound like you're really trying to reach out to a wider audience.
Oh, forever.
And how, like you just mentioned, even going deeper with the characters. I mean, is it still that target towards children, or is it still now,
let me not speak for the company. Let me speak about my feeling from the company, you know, because I'm not the company.
Right.
So first and foremost, 2008 to 2010, you couldn't pay most comic book critics, online or off, to read an Archie comic. As far as they were concerned, it wasn't happening. It didn't exist. They weren't writing about it.
Right. They actually suppressed the Archie.
They were ignoring the company tremendously because, you know, you're a joke. And I don't agree with them. I'm just saying that's the way it was.
Right, right.
When Archie did Archie Marries Betty, Archie Marries Veronica, the country lost its mind. Media outside of the comic book industry, Good Morning America, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, all these people were limoing Victor and these guys to studios to interview them like crazy. And suddenly the comic book industry went, oh, Archie, yeah, okay. So suddenly the world of media woke up to Archie Comics again. And there was a gentleman who owned the first Archie comic, I think it was like, you know, issue 1 or whatever. He's down in Florida. He was so pissed that Archie married Veronica that he sold it for like $30,000 or something like that. Now, it's a what-if story, okay? They're not really married. But the fact was, the world needed to be, Archie's still here. Oh, okay, what next? Well, now you're a company. This is not just art. It's the business of art. It's the business of comics. The company, in order to be around another 50 years, has to maintain an audience. So
yeah, no doubt.
the original owners are gone, all of them. They passed on. You have some new people, still family connected, in position, and they have to look forward to what's coming next. How do we keep this going? How do we keep it fresh? And with all of the influx of now, you know, I mean, it's not like the major motion picture, the major TV networks now. You've got Netflix and Showtime. You've got all of the streaming stuff. There's so much media going on. How does Archie fit into that? So my belief is the company is trying to position itself so that, yeah, we still remember the kids. We still got that. But can we get the rest of this? Can we maintain an audience base that's going to go beyond 12 years of age? Can we keep them interested? Can we keep them buying? Can we get them to do a movie about us? Because for years, people going, you can't do an Archie movie. Nobody believes that kind of lifestyle anymore. Well, okay, if we slant it, so now we got Walking Dead Archie. You know, okay, so if you can go that extreme, they've got a crossover right now. They're doing Archie Predator. Okay, so if you can go that ridiculous, they did Archie Punisher years ago. You know, the universe of Archie has always been elastic. So if you can, yeah, well, in Life with Archie, yeah, he died. You got a gay character. You got Kevin Keller. I mean, so all of these things are saying, look, we're here. We're breathing, we're alive, we're vibrant, we're connected to the times. Some of you will fall away because you don't like what we're doing. Some of you will embrace us. We'll just give us your money. You know, and I think that's what they're doing. I think they're trying to position themselves so that they have a future. And again, you can follow and stay with them or not, but you know, change is going to come. Does that answer your question? Because I could talk for 3 more days.
The only thing about the Archies were, I mean, they're nostalgic to me. You know, you can go back and watching the video on YouTube, Sugar, Sugar, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it still sticks in my mind. And then you go to the new Archie, I'm like, wow, really? Kind of like,
yeah.
like
well, but that's what I'm saying again. Right. You know, it's like, look at, you watch the Adam West Batman.
Yeah.
Nothing like Christian Bale. Nothing.
Right.
Thank goodness.
Right.
You know, so again, I think it's you know, I mean personally, the Batman I grew up with was not psychotic, and I kind of like that guy. I like the Neil Adams Batman. He was a little bit darker than the 50s, 60s Batman, but he wasn't over the top. But I think, you know, once again, it's a sign of the times. Whether I think it's right or not is not really the issue. It's what is. I think that if Archie, the company, is really, really brilliant, they're not going to let go of either end.
I've got to commend them for their resiliency after all these years.
Yeah,
because a lot of times
70 plus years.
Right.
70 plus years. Next question, because I think we have just a few more minutes. Matter of fact, I'm right. Yes. There's got to be another question out there.
In the social media now that we have with Archie, I mean, since it is so founded in the generations that have been before us, you look at Archie, like you say, sugar, that pull all this automatically. I mean, I have it on a tape that a cover band did it once. You know, it's a strong foundation in comic history. You look at Pep, you go back, and you know, you see all the stuff that came, and the crossovers, the stuff that Fernando's doing now, the stuff that Dan Perrin is doing now. I mean, bringing Kevin in and all that. You know, the audience needs to be introduced to it more, because if you go into a comic book store and you look for Archie, it's over there on the side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's always to your peripheral vision. It's never right out in front of you. You know, if you go into, like, let's say what they did with Daredevil recently, they just threw it into Netflix. All of a sudden, it's like great. I mean, you look at it, they went above and beyond. I personally think that they kicked Batman's butt doing it. I don't know if anybody agrees with me.
I saw the series. I saw the
But
series.
it was, when you watch the things that they did in there, and they had that kind of creative, I guess, the release of it, you know, that they could do anything that they wanted. If Archie slips itself into the mainstream like that, like in a Netflix, where you do a half an hour or an hour show, where you know, you go, okay, you know, here's a series in Riverdale.
Entire comic, and then how long before it actually hits the newsstand?
Well, we have to work at least 3 months ahead. When I took over the Betty and Veronica book, Dan DiCarlo had done it, and he was 7 months ahead. So I had no problem keeping up. I always kept up with it, and I was probably one of the slower artists too.
What is slow to you?
Well,
Just to give them a point of reference.
Yeah, I think on the average, they do, maybe an artist does like 2 pages, maybe 2.5 pages a day, you know.
Penciling alone or penciling and inking?
Yeah, just drawing. And I would only do 1.5 pages a day. So there you go.
And
they were usually,
your day is how many hours?
I would work 8 hours, and usually the stories were 6 pages, you know, each.
So you know, again, if you think of the Archie comics that you love or have spent the most time with, and then you think of the layouts and items or elements in the panel, the more simplistic panels are a little easier for him to work on. If there's more, you know, like a vehicle or something or whatever that might complicate the panel, might take him a little bit more time. Same thing with, again, the different styles that you see out there. The more complicated panels, obviously it's going to take an artist a little bit longer to draw. So some artists might literally spend a day on one page, depending on how much is on that page.
Yeah, I never liked drawing, you know, you have to put that in backgrounds, you know, to make it look good and to tell the story. I didn't like drawing backgrounds, and I hated drawing cars, because this is not my thing. And if I had to draw Mrs. Lodge in a car, I would just...
That's his worst day ever, right?
Yeah.
That's his worst. Can I put her under the car? Can I do that? Yeah. I'm sure there are little sketches of you doing that. You know. Okay, so one more. You have one?
Well, I found it interesting you mentioned Mrs. Lodge, because I remember I never saw Veronica's mother in the strips when in the comics when I was reading them. It just seemed to be her and her father.
Wow.
Yeah, most of the time it was. Yeah,
because
every
he was
once in a
drawing.
while. Yeah. I'm not putting her in.
I think I was reading Archie before you started. I was reading Archie a long time ago.
And then,
Like
yeah, they
Josie's
used to make her look so old. You know, she looked like she was about 70 years old. You know.
Yeah, Veronica's 17. So what does that say? Yeah.
But,
We have time for one more. So somebody from that troupe back there.
come on,
Ask her
guys.
a question. Come on. Everybody else has one question.
Gotta be something. Come on.
I guess for you personally, like which character do you prefer? Do you like to create more stories for? Like that who you feel more close to?
Me? Oh, moi. Oh.
You're more related.
Well, you know, I guess this is going to say a lot about me. I've had the most fun writing Jughead. I've had absolutely, yeah, I've had the most fun. I did a story, a 4-part story with him as Cyrano de Bergerac. I loved. I did another one was an homage to like the Sam Spade Private Eye kind of thing, and I just love writing Jughead. Yeah. That would be my personal favorite. If you were to ask me which girl Archie should marry, it should be Betty. You know, I don't care about the money. It's the fact that Betty can do a lot of things. That broadens your possibilities in a relationship. You know, so that would be on that level. I think Archie really should make up his mind at some point. Jesus, you know, come on, boy. It's 70 years and you're still not sure? Why are they waiting for you is my question. Yeah. Yes?
Did you ever see the Archie cartoon, I guess, from the 60s or 70s? What'd you think about that?
I used to, yeah, that was big.
That hurt.
I was in 7th grade when that came out, and that was like huge. And I remember going to the 7th grade dance, and they played Sugar Sugar, and that was like so big. They had them. They said, "Where are you playing that again?" You know.
You know, I'm suspecting I'm older than him then. You know, it's funny. I looked at that cartoon show really more as a person who loves animation, and it was limited, and I wasn't really thrilled with it. There was a lot of redundancy in the movements and things, so visually it didn't appeal to me. Yeah, the show never really visually appealed to me. So that's the only way I can answer that. That's a Filmation problem. You know?
Hanna-Barbera back in the day, of course. Yeah.
Well, no, Archie, no, that was Filmation. That wasn't Hanna-Barbera. No. Hanna-Barbera was messing around with Scooby-Doo at that time.
At the same time.
Yeah, you go Google.
All right,
Yeah.
Sure.
Don't challenge me, man. Yeah.
If they go through an animation with that, like with Archie, that would be something awesome.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Has anybody seen the Sabrina cartoon?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen the live action.
Has the Archie cartoon come out yet?
No, I'm not sure it will. I'm not sure.
There's supposed to be an Archie cartoon.
I'm not sure. Yeah. You know, the best thing you could do is just keep your ears up, because there's all kinds of things flying, rumors and things, and you know, he's filming us, and no, but I would just say, you know, keep an ear up. There are some things in the wind, and depending if you're downwind or upwind, you'll like what that is. Anyway, I'm going to have to say thank you so much for being with us. I really enjoyed this, and we're down. Well, he's down. What's your table? 16.
I'm in 2000. I'm in the 2000 area.
Okay, so he's down there with a ton of artwork and everything. I'm over by 1100 by the loading bay with the kids section. So I have Archie books, but we also have a lot of great artists and people over there you can come talk to. So either way, we'll see you downstairs. Thank you.